Welcome Beyond Our Focus. I'm Stefan, this is Amanda, and this is Let's Palaver about Wizard and Glass. We are in, it is the
Part 2.
fourth novel in the Stephen King's Dark Tower saga. We are in Part 2, Chapter 1, called Beneath the Kissing Moon. There will be no kissing in this chapter.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty positive. Or the next chapter. Other things, maybe. Kissing, no.
Yes, we are going over 2 chapters because the first one is literally like 8 pages long.
Yeah, it's insanely short. And the second chapter itself, also not very long. So yes, combined, they are a total of 22 pages. So, not very long.
So, if you don't remember, we have officially gone into the telling of Roland's past. He is finally sitting down with everyone and telling them probably the biggest chapter of his life. And the tale of Susan Delgado.
See, like the Star Wars saga of movies, there's a huge, giant gap between when this book takes place and when all the other books take place.
Yeah.
Like, an insane gap.
Well,
I mean, he's, 14 in this?
I think so, because she's 16. And I don't
So,
remember what the age
and
is.
we meet Roland when he's what?
1001?
Something along those lines. So there's just a very large gap between this very important chapter in Roland's life and what's happening now.
Whee! So, we enter upon the kissing moon.
A perfect disc of silver. The kissing moon. It was called. It is. Okay, I can't read anymore. As it was called in full earth. There we go. I don't know what's going on anymore. Anyway, as it was full earth, hung above the ragged hill 5 miles east of Hanbury and 10 miles south of Eyebolt Canyon. Below the hill, the late summer heat still held, suffocating even 2 hours after sundown. But atop the Coos, which I assume is how you kind of maybe say that?
I assume so.
It was as if reap had already come, with its strong breezes and frost-pitching air. For the woman who lived here was no company but a snake and one old muty cat. It was to be a long night. Yes, it's going to be a long night.
So, it is now... We pretty much come upon this old lady who has just had 3 visitors leave her house or her home. We find out the cat's name is Musty. It's a 6-legged cat.
Well, it's a 4-legged cat with a couple extra limbs just hanging off.
It's a 6-legged cat.
Those other limbs don't do anything.
They twitch.
It's like you're a 6-legged person right now because you have 2 braids. They don't do anything, but they count.
We find out very quickly that this woman has a disdain for men. She snorted, "Men were funny, eh? So they were. And the most amusing thing about them was how little they knew it."
Yeah, she had just seen off the 3 big coffin hunters.
Yes. Dun, dun,
Which we'll hear much more about them later.
Yeah. So yes, she goes on talking about how men have such pride and are stuck on themselves, and yet it's always a woman's fault if a child is born wrong.
You gotta blame somebody.
Yeah. Men. She could not understand why so many women feared them. Hadn't the gods made them with the most vulnerable part of their guts hanging right out of the bodies?
He did. Bastard.
Kicked them there and they curled up like snails. Caressed them there and their brains melted. And then, of course, we find out she's waiting on somebody. She has another business to attend to.
I don't know if it said here. Let's see. None of these thoughts had any real power over her in any or any real malice to them. At least not now. The three men who called themselves the Big Coffin had brought her a marvel. And she would look at it. Aye, fill up her eyes with it. So she would. The Gimp Jonas? I guess it's Jonas. The Gimp Jonas had insisted she put it away. He had told her... he had been told she had a place for such things. Not that he wanted to see it himself. Not any of her secret places. God forbid. I would agree. Let's stay away from her secret places. At this sally, the Pape and Reynolds had laughed like trolls. I'm sure they had.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things going here.
This chapter is very descriptive, crudely descripted, because a lot of it is what's going on in her mind, and she is not the most pleasant woman in the world.
No. It's and so she had, but the hoofbeats of the horses had been swallowed by the wind now, and she would do as she liked. The girls whose tits were stolen, what little there was of Hartthorn's mind, would not be here for another hour, at least. The old woman had insisted that the girl walk from town, citing the purification value of such a moonlit heel and toe. A moonlit heel and toe. A walk, maybe? Actually, just waiting to put a safe bumper of time between her two appointments. And during that hour, she would do as she liked. Yes, she would.
Yes. So, we, throughout the chapter, we very often get the, how do we say this? She very much throughout these chapters likes to mention how turned on she gets by this globe, and it comes up a lot. I don't know where Stephen King was exactly when he wrote these two chapters, but he was someplace. So we have a very wretched old bow-legged witch lady who really likes to describe the feeling of her nether regions.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. Okay, so. Even through the box where they hid it, I felt its glam, so beautiful, musty, like you. She took the cat from her shoulder and held it in front of her eyes. The old Tom purred and stretched out its pug of a face toward hers. She kissed its nose. So, when I read that, the first thing that came to mind, and I noted it, was Hermione's cat. But for the life of me, I couldn't remember its name until right this minute. Crookshanks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why when I wrote it down, I could not remember it until I actually read it again.
It has 6 legs, too.
No, it just like to hunt, Peter Pettigrew's.
She put the cat down and walked slowly towards the hearth, where it late fire blazed, eating a single log. Musty's tail split at the tip, so it looked like a forked tail of the devil in an old drawing. Sure. Switched back and forth in the room's dim orange glow, its extra legs dangling from its side, twitching dreamily. Yes, a wonderful looking.
The shadow which trailed across the floor and grew up the wall was a horror. A thing that looked like a cat crossed with a spider. So your best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. You would absolutely love to. I need to get you one for your birthday.
Of course, if you can find a 6-legged cat, you let me know.
Oh, no, I'm going to find you a cat that's crossed with a spider.
I mean, if you can find that too, let me know. That'd be interesting. Some gene splicing there. Probably.
You'll make an exception for that?
Sure, why not? Now she went to the foot of her bed, knelt, and passed one hand over the earth floor there. Lines appeared in the sour dirt as she did. They formed the square. She pushed her fingers into one of those lines, and it gave before her touch. She lifted the hidden panel, hidden in such a way that no one without the touch would ever be able to uncover it, revealing a compartment, perhaps a foot square and 2 feet deep. Within it was an ironwood box. Curled on top of the box was a slim green snake. When she touched its back, its head came up, its mouth yawned in a silent hiss, displaying 4 pairs of fangs, 2 on top and 2 on bottom.
To which, for some reason, she decides to just stick her tongue out, get some venom on her tongue, and just have a nice little small trip.
Yeah, I mean...
And then kiss the snake between the eyes and call it a day.
Yeah. This is what witches do.
Apparently. Ermot the snake.
The box was locked, and Jonas had given her no key. But that was nothing to her, who had lived long and studied much, and trafficked with creatures that most men, for all their bold talk and strutting ways, would run from, if on fire had they caught even the smallest glimpse of them. She stretched one hand towards the lock, on which was inlaid the shape of an eye, and a motto in high speech, "I see who opens me," and then withdrew it. All at once she could smell what her nose no longer noticed under ordinary circumstances. Must and dirt and dirty mattresses, and the crumbs of food that had been consumed in bed. The mingled stench of ashes and ancient incense. The odor of an old woman with wet eyes and... wet eyes.
I thought you were just going to keep going. I was like, okay, we'll do this.
We got there eventually, okay? She had wet eyes, okay? She would not open the box and look at the wonder it contained in here. She would go outside, where the air was clean, and the only smells were sage and mesquite. She would look by the light of the kissing moon. Rhea of the Coos Hill, pulled the box from the hole with a grunt, rose to her feet with another grunt. And then why did we have to do that?
I don't know.
Tucked the box under her arm and left the room.
You ever watch it? Like, you ever feel like when you listen to someone read, you're just watching a train wreck? Because that's sometimes what happens. Where it's like, you know what's coming up, but they just keep reading, and you're like, let's see how this goes. Yeah. Because it's like sometimes you start reading something and you don't really know how far it goes, so you just keep reading, and then you suddenly hit that part, and you're like, oh shit.
Well, we're just going to stop. We're going to stop right here.
Yeah.
We don't really want to discuss Rhea's nether regions a whole lot during this book.
It's old.
The witch that's like
4,000
years old, who...
bow-legged and...
She's a hideous creature, as far as we can gather from this.
I mean, they described her tongue as a bad smell, or yellowish, bad-smelling mat.
Solid.
So, let's just never go there again. So, she begins to just... She's outside, kind of just staring at the moon. She hears the thinny. So it says, at the top of the hill, the wind lifted her hair away from her ravaged face and brought her the moaning whisper of the thinny, which had eaten its way into the far end of Eyebolt Canyon. It was a sound few cared for, she knew, but she herself loved it. To Rhea of the Coos, it sounded like a lullaby. Overhead rode the moon, the shadow on its bright skin sketching the faces of lovers kissing. If you believed the ordinary fools below, that was. The ordinary fools below saw a different face, or set of faces in each full moon. But the hag knew there was only one, the face of the demon, the face of death. She herself, however, had never felt more alive. "Oh, my beauty," she whispered, and touched the lock with her gnarled fingers. A faint glimmer of red light showed between her bunched knuckles, and there was a click. Breathing hard, like a woman who has run a race, she put the box down, and opened it. Rose-colored light, dimmer than that thrown by the kissing moon, but infinitely more beautiful, spilled out. It touched the ruined face hanging above the box, and for a moment made it the face of a young girl again. Musty sniffed, head stretched forward, ears laid back, old eyes rimmed with that rose light. Rhea was instantly jealous. "Get away, foolish! 'Tis not for the likes of you." She swatted the cat. Musty shied back, hissing like a kettle, and stalked in dungeon to the hummock, which marked the very tip of Coos Hill.
Within the box, peeping out of the velvet drawstring bag, was a glass globe. It was filled with that rosy light. It flowed in gentle pulses, like the beat of a satisfied heart. "Oh, my lovely one," she murmured, lifting it out. She held it up before her. Let its pulsing radiance run down her wrinkled face like rain. "Oh, ye live, so ye do." Suddenly, the color within the globe darkened towards scarlet. She felt this thrum in her hands, like an immensely powerful motor. And again, she felt that amazing things happen to her. That tidal tug, she believed, had been left behind long ago. All right. They just cannot help. They cannot help.
I was just watching the train wreck happen. Like, I thought you were just going to just stop at powerful motor because you'd paused. And then I was like, nope, he's going for it. So.
Well, I didn't read that far ahead. Remember that? We just like talking about it too much. King, did you have a thing for old women? I mean, what was going on here?
Then the thrumming died, and the light in the globe seemed to furl up like petals. Where it had been, there was now a pinkish gloom, and 3 riders coming out of it. At first, she thought it was the men who had brought her the globe, Jonas and the others. But no, these were younger, even younger than, did you say DePape? DePap?
I would say DePape.
DePape?
Personally, but I don't know.
Who was about 25. The one on the left of the trio appeared to have a bird's skull mounted on the pommel of his saddle. Strange, but true. Then that one and the one on the right were gone, darkened away somehow by the power of the glass, leaving only the one in the middle. She took in the jeans and boots he wore, the flat-brimmed hat that hid the upper half of his face, the easy way he sat his horse, and her first alarmed thought was, "Gunslinger, come east from the inner baronies, aye, perhaps from Gilead itself." But she did not have to see the upper half of the rider's face to know he was little more than a child, and there were no guns on his hips. Yet she didn't think the youth came unarmed. If only she could see a little better. She brought the glass almost to the tip of her nose and whispered, "Closer, lovey, closer still." She didn't know what to expect. Nothing at all seemed most likely. But within the dark circle of the glass, the figure did come closer, swam closer, almost like a horse and rider underwater. And she saw there was a quiver of arrows on his back. Before him, on the pommel of his saddle, was not a skull, but a short bow. And to the right side of the saddle, where a gunslinger might have carried a rifle in a scabbard, there was the feather-fluffed shaft of a lance. He was not one of the old people. His face had none of that look. Yet she did not think he was of the outer ark, either. "But who are ye, cully?" she breathed. "And how shall I know ye?" "You've got your hat pulled down so far I can't see your god-pounding eyes. So ye do. By your horse, mayhap. Or perhaps by your—" "Get away, Musty! Why do you trouble me so? Arr!" The cat had come back from its lookout point and was twining back and forth between her swollen old ankles, wowing up at her in a voice even more rusty than its purr.
So she kicks at him and then re-kicks out again. This one just as ineffective as the first one. Then looked into the glass once more. The horse and its interesting young riders were gone. The rose light was gone as well. It was now just a dead glass ball she held. Its only light, a reflection burrowed from the moon. The wind gusted past her dress. Against the of her body, musty, blah, blah, blah. What's the next part?
Musty, undaunted by the feeble kicks of his mistress, darted forward and began to twine about her ankles again, crying up at her the whole time, There, do you see what you've done, ye nasty bag of fleas and disease? The light's gone out of it, gone out just when I... Then she heard a sound from the cart track which led up to her hut, and understood why Musty had been acting out. It was singing she heard. It was the girl she heard. The girl was Early. Grimacing horribly, she loathed being caught by surprise, and the little miss down there would pay for doing it. She bent and put the glass back in its box. The inside was lined with padded silk, and the ball fit as neatly as the breakfast egg in his lordship's cup. And still from down the hill, the cursed wind was wrong, or she would have heard it sooner, the sound of the girl singing now closer than ever. Love, oh careless love, can't you see what careless love has done?
Caught off guard. Susan moving a little too quick.
Yeah. Yes, so she tries to lock the box, and it won't lock again, and she doesn't have time to deal with it, so she quickly just, jumps, and pretty much, runs to her house, sprints inside, pretty much hoping the girl has not seen anything.
Oh, yeah. She gets the box, picks it up, lifts up her skirt a little bit, and runs. This old, haggard woman running, hoping that Susan did not see her. Doesn't think she saw her, because she still hears her singing.
Yes, and pretty much even though she's pretty much just pissed at this girl now, she realizes she can't do anything, because if she does anything to the girl, then the mayor will be mad at her.
Mm-hmm.
And she can't have the mayor mad at her, because she kind of needs to work, pretty much. But I do love... everything's kind of just like the whole old-fashioned thing, but sometimes things just kind of stick out where it's like...
But no fear of that. And in the meantime, possession was 9/10 of the law. Were it not?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, we say that now. I don't know if you'd say it then or when.
Yeah. So yes, so she runs.
She could still run when she had to, though few would, or who would believe it. Or hear who would believe it. Anyway, that's the end of chapter 1.
Yeah.
Good old Rhea running back to her house because Susan is way early. 30, 45 minutes early, insanely early.
Because she was supposed to just kind of walk. And as she walked, she was supposed to be chanting something. She did not do that.
No? So, chapter 2, called Proving Honesty. And whatever you're thinking right now, how would a woman prove honesty? It's right. You're right.
Okay. A little bit more context.
No?
No.
No more context.
No. Because they did talk about it earlier and we kind of just skipped over.
Did we?
Yeah. It's been pretty much made clear that the mayor is specifically sending this girl to her. And she's supposed to test this girl for honesty.
Yes.
So now, whatever you're thinking, yes. Yes. Because it was made pretty clear that this mayor guy is is needing a side woman.
Yes. I don't know if it was this one or the last one, but it talks about how his woman can't give him a boy. Can't give him a son. I don't remember if it was this chapter or the last chapter. Doesn't matter. But the mayor's wife cannot give him a son.
Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah.
So when you can't give a son, you get a side chick. And the side chick will give you a son.
Pretty much.
Or I better give you a son.
So she runs inside her house. She pretty much can't open the hidey hole because it takes too long. So she kind of just shoves it under the bed. And as she turns away to leave, the box clicks itself open and you can see pink light coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Delgado stopped about 40 yards from the witch's hut, the sweat chilling on her arms and the nape of her neck. Had she just spied on an old woman? Surely the one she had come to see. Dart down that last bit of path leading from the top of the hill? She thought she had. Don't stop singing. When an old lady hurries like that, she doesn't want to be seen. If you stop singing, she'll likely know she was. For a moment, Susan thought she'd stop anyway, that her memory would close up like a startled hand and deny her another verse of the old song which she had been singing since youngest childhood. But the next verse came to her, and she continued on.
Once my cares were far away. Yes, once my cares were far away. Now my love has gone from me, and misery is in my heart to stay. Yay!
It's beautiful. Lovely, Susan. Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. A bad song for a night such as this, mayhap. But her heart went on its own way without much interest in what her head thought or wanted. Yeah, I don't know if it was a great song for tonight.
Yeah,
On her way to the witch's house.
So she's been singing about careless love. She pretty much has been worried about werewolves and just things in the night getting sure. So she decided to start singing, and she ended up running instead. It was like, I need to walk and chant some stuff, and I just bolted.
Yeah, she was frightened to be out by the moonlight when werewolves were said to walk. She was frightened of her errand. She was frightened by what the errand pretended. Pretended?
I don't even know where you are.
Yet, when she had gained the great road out of Hembury, and her heart had demanded she run, she had run.
I can speak personally. I can't say we all, because I don't know if you have. But I think most of us had that moment outside where it's like, I'm going to just take a nice walk. And then you start walking, and just something. I don't know, it could be, it doesn't even have to be a noise. It could just be this feeling that you get. And then just suddenly you're like, you know what, I'm not going to walk. I'm just going to run. I'm just going to run. It's fine.
Or your mind gets away from you. It gets away from you.
Like,
in the dark can be scary.
It doesn't even have to go like that far either, to where it's like, oh, something's coming to get me. It's just like, I was going to take a nice walk. Now I just want to get to the destination just a little bit sooner. It's fine. It's kind of the same feeling that you get when you start at one end of the hallway, and then you like take a couple steps, and suddenly you're like, you know what? It's fine. I'll just run to my room. It's good. Now she walked to the end of the path, singing the chorus of Careless Love. As she stepped into the scant light which fell through the open door and onto the stoop, a harsh rain-crow voice spoke from the shadows. Stop your howling, missy. It catches in my brains like a fishhook. Damn, woman.
Yeah. Susan, who had been told all her life that she had a fair singing voice, a gift from her grandma, no doubt fell silent at once, abashed. She stood on the stoop with her hands clasped in front of her apron. Beneath the apron she wore her second best dress. She only had two. Beneath it, her heart was thumping very hard.
A cat, a hideous thing with two extra legs sticking out of its sides like toasting forks, came into the doorway first. It looked up at her, seemed to measure her, then screwed its face up in a look that was eerily human. Contempt. It hissed at her, then flashed away into the night. Well, good evening to you too, Susan thought. The old woman she had been sent to see stepped into the doorway. She looked Susan up and down with the same expression of flat-eyed contempt, then stood back. Come in, and mind ye clap the door tight. The wind has a way of blowing it open, as ye see.
Yes, she said, smiling. She tried to make a good one. Bright and unafraid. Here I am. And it's early you are, my little sweetie. Sweeting? Sweeting? Sweeting. I like sweeting better. Early you are, I ran part of the way. The moon got into my blood, I suppose. That's what my dad would have said. Jeez. The old woman's horrible smile widened into something that made Susan think of the way ills sometimes seemed to grin. After death and just before the pot. Aye, but dead he is. Dead these 5 years, Pat Delgado. Of the red hair and beard, the life mashed out of him by his own horse, aye, and went into the clearing at the end of the path with the music of his own snapping bones in his ears, so he did.
What a...
Oh, just horrible!
Beep!
Oh, it's just horrible.
Just friggin' just... Beautiful one. Beautiful one.
Oh yeah, she's just a wonderful lady.
The nervous smile slipped from Susan's face as if slapped away. She felt tears, always close at the mere mention of her dad's name, burn at the back of her eyes, but she would not let them fall. Not in this heartless old crow's sight, she wouldn't. Let our business be quick and be done, she said in a dry voice that was far from her usual one. That voice was usually cheery and merry and ready for fun, but she was Pat Delgado's child, daughter of the best drover ever to work the western drop, and she remembered his face very well. She could rise to a stronger nature if required, as it now clearly was. The old woman had meant to reach out and scratch as deep as she could, and the more she saw that her efforts were succeeding, the more she would redouble them. The hag, meanwhile, was watching Susan shrewdly, her bunch-knuckled hands planted on her hips while her cat twined around her ankles. Her eyes were rheumy, but Susan saw enough of them to realize they were the same gray-green shade as the cat's eyes, and to wonder what sort of fell magic that might be. She felt an urge, a strong one, to drop her eyes, and would not. It was all right to feel fear, but sometimes a very bad idea to show it. "You look at me pert, missy," Ray said at last. Her smile was dissolving slowly into a petulant frown. "Nay, old mother," she replied evenly, "only as one who wishes to do the business she came for and be gone. I have come here at the wish of my Lord Mayor of Magis, and at that of my Aunt Cordelia, sister of my father, my dear father, of whom I would hear no ill spoken." "I speak as I do," the old woman said.
Mm-hmm.
The words were dismissive, yet there was a trace of fawning servility in the hag's voice. Susan set no importance on that. It was a tone such a thing as this had probably adopted her whole life, and came as automatically as breath. "I've lived alone a long time, with no mistress but myself, and once it begins, my tongue goes where it will. Then sometimes it might be best not to let it begin at all." The old woman's eyes flashed ugly. "Curb your own stripling, girl, lest you find it dead in your mouth, where it will rot and make the mayor think twice about kissing you, when he smells it stink, aye, even under a moon such as this."
"We have begun badly, mistress." "Can we start over?" Susan asked suddenly and held out her hand. The hag looked startled, although she did reach out and make brief contact. The wrinkly tips of her finger touched the short-nailed fingers of a 16-year-old girl who stood before her with her clear-skinned face shining and her long hair braided down her back. Susan had made a real effort not to grimace at the touch, which I could understand. Brief as it was, the old woman's fingers were as chilly as those of a corpse, but Susan had touched chilly fingers before. "Cold hands, warm hearts," Aunt Cord sometimes said.
Mm-hmm, sure.
We haven't gotten there. We won't for a while. It doesn't really matter. Aunt Cord?
Yeah.
You know what? She might as well be as bad as the witch. Just go throw it out there.
Cold hand, warm heart does not describe Aunt Cord.
No!
That is like, there's hypocrisy all over.
Oh my god, I hate that woman. Anyway, the real unpleasantness was the texture, the feel of cold flesh, spongy and loose on the bones, as if the woman to whom they were attached had drowned and lain along in some pool. "Nay, nay, there's no starting over," the old woman said. "Yet mayhap we'll go on better than we have begun. We've a powerful friend in the mayor, and I'd not have him for my enemy."
She's honest, at least, Susan thought.
Yeah. Woman says whatever the heck she wants to say.
You came before me, I expected you, and it's put me out of my temper, so it has. Have you brought me something, missy? You have, I'll warrant. Her eyes were glittering once more, this time not with anger. So Susan pulls out a little pouch that has 2 gold coins in it. Of course, the old lady does the whole bite test, and we get a nice description of her ugly ass mess of a mouth. I was half expecting, one of her teeth to just snap off on the coin, but that wasn't me. With Ray's attention was distracted by the coins, Susan happened to look around the open door to her left, and into it what she assumed was the witch's bedchamber. And here she saw an odd and disquieting thing, a light under the bed. A pink, pulsing light. It seemed to be coming from some kind of box, although she could not quite... The witch looked up, and Susan hastily moved her eyes to a corner of the room. There was a net containing 3 or 4 strange white fruits hung from a hook. Then, as the old woman moved and her huge shadow danced ponderously away from the part of the wall, Susan saw they were not fruits at all, but skulls. She felt a sickish drop in her stomach.
Yeah. The fire needs building up, missy. Go around to the side of the house and bring back an armload of wood. Good-sized sticks are what's wanted. And never mind whining your old No mind whining, you can't lug 'em. You're of a strapping good size, so you are. She tries to get his bag like Gasher over here trying to speak. Like, can we? These aren't real words. You're just saying things. You're mumbling. Susan had quit whining about chores around the time she had
quit peeing her pants.
Yeah, I think that's basically what they're saying. All did cross her mind to ask Rhea if anyone who brought her gold was invited to lug her wood. In truth, she didn't mind. The air outside would taste like wine after the stench of this hut. She had almost reached the door when her foot struck something hot and yielding. The cat yawled. Susan stumbled and almost fell. From behind her, the old woman issued a series of gasping, choking sounds, of which Susan eventually recognized as laughter. The cat looked up at Susan, its ears laid back, its gray-green eyes wide. It hissed at her. And Susan, unaware she was going to do it until it was done, hissed back. That's what I do.
Yeah.
You want to bark at me? I can do that too. I'm capable. Bigger than you.
So she goes outside, and she goes to the side of the house.
The wrong
side
of the house.
Says, around the side of the house she went, but it was the wrong side, it seemed, for there was no wood pile here. There was a narrow excuse for a window, however, half buried in some tough and unlovely creeper. It was toward the back of the hut, and must look into the old woman's sleeping closet. Don't look in there. Whatever she's got under her bed isn't your business, and if she were to catch you... She went to the window despite these admonitions and peeked in. So every single person ever, where it's your voice, that voice inside your head is going, hey, whatever you do, don't go there. We don't need to do this. It's fine.
Bad idea. But your curiosity, like,
you're already there. You're like, do not look in. Oh, we're already at the window.
The classic... devil angel on your shoulder. Which one do you listen to?
She went to the window despite... Okay. It was unlikely that Ray would have seen Susan's face through the dense overgrowth of pig ivy, even if the old besom had been looking in the direction, and she wasn't. She was on her knees. The drawstring bag caught in her teeth, reaching under the bed. She brought out a box and opened its lid, which was already ajar. Her face was flooded with a soft pink radiance, and Susan gasped. For one moment it was the face of a young girl, but one filled with cruelty as well as youth. The face of a self-willed child determined to learn all the wrong things for all the wrong reasons. The face of the girl this hag once had been. The light appeared to be coming from some sort of glass ball. So pretty much she watches her kind of close the thing, lock it back, and open her little door thingy and put it back in.
Mm-hmm. Then something in Susan's head. Yeah. The wood, Susan! Get the wood before she wakes up to how long you've been gone. For your father's sake. Yeah, you've been lingering out there an awful long time.
So she lifts up her skirt so she doesn't get it dirty, crawls under the window, goes all the way around the house, and then gets the wood. And yeah, so it says, took you long enough, missy, Ray said. She continued to look into the fireplace as if Susan were of no account. But one foot tapped below the dirty hem of her dress, and her eyebrows were drawn together. Susan crossed the room, peering over the load of wood in her arms as well as she could while she walked. It wouldn't surprise her a bit to spy the cat lurking near, hoping to trip her up. I saw a spider, she said. I flapped my apron at it to make it run away. I hate the look of them, so I do. You'll see something you like the look of even less soon enough, Ray said, grinning her peculiar one-sided grin. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty much you'll be seeing a lot of Thorn that you don't want to see.
Yeah, Mayor Thorn.
Hold a minute, girl. Ye gods, you've brought enough for a Faraday bonfire.
The Faraday bonfire.
She tossed them indifferently into the coals. Ember spiraled up the dark and faintly roaring shaft of the chimney. There, you've scattered what's left of your fire, you silly old thing, and will likely have to rekindle the whole mess, Susan thought. Then Ray reached into the fireplace with one splayed hand, spoke a guttural word, and the logs blazed up as if soaked in oil. Put the rest over there, she said, pointing at the woodbox, and mind ye not be scatterbark, missy. What, and dirty all this neat? Susan thought. She bit the insides of her cheeks to kill the smile that wanted to rise on her mouth.
Well, this is where my fancy picture is.
Oh. No, mine I must have been back farther. No, actually.
No, it's actually up for...
Up. No, it's right there.
It's a little bit closer to the actual proving.
And the cat's limb doesn't look very good on its own.
No, it's just hanging out there.
Yeah.
All right, mistress. Let's do our business and have it done. Do you know why you're here? I'm here at Mayor Thorne's wish, Susan repeated, knowing that was no real answer. She was frightened now, more frightened than when she had looked through the window and seen the old woman crooning to the glass ball. His wife has come barren to the end of her courses. He wishes to have a son before he is also unable to... Push, Tish! Spare me the codswallop. And pretty words. He wants tits and earth that don't squish in his hands, and a buck that'll grip when he's pushing. So yeah, he wants a nice young thing.
If a son come of it, fine. He'll give it over to ye to keep and raise until it's old enough to school, and after that you'll see it no more. If it's a daughter, he'll likely take it from ye and give it to his new man, the one with the girl's hair and the limp, to drown in the nearest cattle wallow. Susan stared at her, shocked out of all measure. The old woman saw the look and laughed. Don't like the sound of the truth, do yer? Few do, missy. But that's neither here nor there. Your auntie was ever a trig one, and she'll have done all right out of Thorn and Thorn's treasury. What gold you see of it's none of mine, and won't be none of yours either, if you don't watch sharp. Take off your dress. So she has to strip down in front of this old, nasty woman.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got one more note before I skipped like 3 pages.
There's dirt on your knees.
That's the note right there.
How came it there? Susan felt a moment of awful panic. She had lifted her skirts to crawl beneath the hag's window, and hung herself by doing it. Then an answer rose to her lips, and she spoke it calmly enough. When I came in sight of your hut, I grew fearful. I knelt to pray, and raised my skirts so as not to soil it.
That's what it was. That's what you did.
I'm touched to want a clean dress for the likes of me. How good ye are. Don't you agree, Musty? The cat wowed, then began to lick one of its forepaws. Get on with it, Susan said. You've been paid and I'll obey, but stop teasing and have done. You know what it is I have to do, mistress. I don't.
Aunt Court didn't want to say.
She's too nice. She's too nice to say what your Aunt Cordelia won't. I'm to make sure that you're physically and spiritually intact, Missy. Proving honesty is what the old ones called it, and it's a good enough name, so it is. Step to me. And then proceeds the test.
Yep, all the fancy tests.
Just a nice quiz.
Essentially, Rhea inspects all of Susan's holes.
Pretty much, she gets a physical. She gets a physical by a gynecologist.
Inspects all the holes.
So, which is weird considering what was the first one gonna do? The first one was her just literally breathing into Ray's. But what the hell is that gonna do?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Inspecting all the holes.
Yeah, I can understand because like the horse tests where you like check their gums and their teeth. And
you gotta make sure all's good.
That I could have understood.
Rhea is a dentist. Rhea is a gynecologist. Rhea is a doctor. Rhea is a.
But see, that's the thing. If she would have like checked her teeth and stuff, that would have made sense. But no, all she did was breathe on her.
Oh, there's the spiritual test too. Okay.
Oh,
God. No, she's a witch.
Also, what is it? The tickle test. She had to lift her foot so she could like just fiddle with her ankle.
Well, she fiddles with everything else.
I'm just saying these tests.
Is the ankle is that really what we're worried about?
This test. I'm skipping. We all know those ones. But I'm just skipping over those ones to go to the most abnormally stupid ones. Like what? I'm making sure Thorne wanted me to let you know, or let him know, whether you're ticklish or not.
I mean, she inspects her very well. All over and everything.
But she does, right at the beginning, like... finally, it gets to the last test, pretty much. And so Susan closed her eyes and thought of horses running along the drop. Nominally, they were the barony's horses, overlooked by Rymer, Thorne's chancellor, and the barony's minister of inventory. But the horses didn't know that. They thought they were free. And if you were free in your mind, what else mattered? Let me be free in my mind, as free as the horses along the drop, and don't let her hurt me. Please don't let her hurt me, and if she does, please help me to bear it in decent silence. And then Ray goes to weird-ass levels. Like, it turns from a gynecology exam to a porno, pretty much.
Pretty much!
Like, it was... That was the porno. Is that some woman walks into a gynecologist and they're like, we're here for your exam. And it's like, bow, chicka, bow, wow, do, 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 do.
Except this is million-year-old lady.
Yeah, just ugly. This is like, what, rule 34? Whatever.
I think it's rule 34.
Yeah. So, whatever your fetishes are. Either way.
Alright. You finished what you were paid to do, Susan said. Her voice was dry and harsh. Ree's face nodded. You'll not tell me I know. Yes, or maybe? Impertinent stripling of a girl? I know when I'm done. I, Rhea, the weirding of a coos? And be still and be on your feet before I kick you into the fire, unnatural thing. I don't know, it's not great. That's Rat the Witch. I mean, yay! Reed's gonna kill you!
But remember, Mayor. It still was a horrible idea, but I'm just saying. Raise hand or foot to me, you impudent fool, and what leaves my house will leave handless, footless, and blind of eye.
Oh, the ice cream truck.
Yes, we do have an ice cream truck.
I'm like, what is that noise?
Yes, we have an ice cream truck that just drives around. Never flagged it down at all, but it's there.
We used to have one in our old neighborhood.
I do not much doubt you could do it, but Thorn should be vexed, Susan said. It was the first time in her life she had ever invoked a man's name for protection. Realizing this made her feel ashamed. Small, somehow. She didn't know why that should be, especially since she had agreed to sleep in his bed and bear his child. But it was.
We don't have much left. We also don't have much time left.
Well, literally, all it is that Ray tries to give some kind of weird-ass apology. Like, oh, I just got a little carried away. My bad.
Don't speak of this to anyone. She looks for her notepad. A very traditional notepad to what we know.
And a stub of a pencil.
Yeah.
Sitgo.
Of course.
Sitgo stamped on it in ancient gold letters.
Where she writes, honest.
It's spelled O-N-N-E-S-T.
Good enough.
With like a pitchfork as a signature.
Yep. According to her, cannot be copied and is known to all around.
So then she goes on to pretty much say that it's very important you tell... First off, this note can only be given to you, to Thorin. You can show your aunt, but your aunt can't have it.
Yep.
She has to be given. And also, he can't sleep with you. He can't sleep with you yet.
Nope, he can't sleep with you until after the bonfire.
Yes.
Of the...
Demon Moon.
Until Demon Moon rises full in the sky. Not until reaping.
Yes.
Not
3
until...
months.
Yeah, so 3 months from now. Which Susan is thrilled about.
Oh yeah, she was like, I have time. This is great. And then she's finally like, oh wait. There is one more small thing that I need you to do. She's like, okay, what was it? And then next thing you know, she has a medallion in front of her face.
Nope, it's the old hypnotize trick. Except Roland's bullet, it's a little more traditional.
Medallion, yeah. Says, until Ray spoke a single guttural word, that was. Then they closed. So, now Susan just kind of deadpan in front of her, and she's in her mind going, oh, I'm going to do so many things to you, like...
Ray looked at the girl who stood asleep on her stoop in the moonlight as she replaced the medallion with her sleeve. Her fingers were old and bunchy, but they moved dexterously. Enough with the required... the mysterious expression full of face. Her was replaced. Kick me into the fire, would you, you troll? Tattled to Thorin. But her threats and impudence weren't the worst. The worst had been the expression of revulsion on her face when she had pulled back from Rhea's touch. Too good for Rhea she was? And thought to herself, too good for Thorin as well? No doubt. She, with 16 years worth of fine blonde hair hanging down from her head. She could hurt the girl, much as she wanted, and to as much as the girl deserved it. If nothing else, Thorin might take the glass ball away from her. And Rhea couldn't bear that, not yet, anyway. So she could not hurt the girl. But she could do something that would spoil his pleasure in her, at least for a while. Rhea leaned close to the girl, grasped the long blonde hair, which lay on her back, and began to slip it through her fist, enjoying the silky smoothness. Susan, she whispered. Do you hear me, Susan, daughter of Patrick? Yes. The eyes did not open. Then listen. The light of the kissing moon fell on Rhea's face and turned it into a silver skull. Listen to me well, and remember, in the deep cave where your waking mind never goes. She pulled the braid through her hand again and again, silky and smooth like the little bud of a flower. Like, okay, I didn't realize we were going to go there. Remember, the girl in the doorway said, "Aye, there's something you'll do after he takes your virginity. You'll do it right away without even thinking about it. Now listen to me, Susan, daughter of Patrick, and hear me very well." Still stroking the girl's hair, Rhea put her wrinkled lips to the smooth cup of Susan's ear and whispered in the moonlight. And all on that butt.
I was like, and he's walking right into it.
He's walking, and like, I forgot this was sad. How far are we going next? We got a moment or two. We can. Oh, 3, 4. That's another 22 pages. So I'll probably just do one chapter next time.
So next is chapter 3.
A meeting on the road. We'll be going to chapter 4, long after moonset. Whee! So that was a fun couple chapters.
That was a lot.
Right?
It was a lot. It was too much. Like, it didn't need to be that. It didn't need to be what it was.
But it was what it was. And
it's just like creepy old woman.
Creepy old lady. Well, she's a witch. She's an ancient, old, crazy witch. And
very, very lonely witch.
And
very,
you know what? It's going to get crazier as it goes on.
So.
Well, if you'd like that, please throw a comment down below. Let us know what you thought and what you're thinking of the book so far. We don't know where you are, where you're going to be, if you're reading it at all. Throw a like on the video, because we'd appreciate that. Throw a subscription, because I love that. Those things just keep moving back and forth. I just can't keep track of it. And, anything else?
I think we're good.
All right. As always, you can reach me at Stars on Travels. Reach Amanda at KZ Pup. Reach the show at Beyond Our Focus. Everywhere, including YouTube and podcast services around the globe.
Maybe.
But any final thoughts before we bounce out of here?
Try hazelnut M&Ms.
They're pretty darn tasty.
As long as you're not allergic.
That's what we've been eating the whole podcast, and it's very tasty.
Padcast.
Badcast?
Probably. This was Badcast. This was Trainwreckcast.
It is what it is. We're going to have to deal with a lot of that, I think, for this whole book, so...
Creepy old woman.
Old woman. Well, not doing what she did in this particular chapter.
I don't care.
Roland's going to get through a lot of that.
Well...
Anyways...
At least that seems more natural, okay, than creepy old woman touches 16-year-old girl, okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like 60, 70, 80 years between the two of them, so...
that's nasty as hell. Anyways,
till next time, long days and pleasant nights.